My husband and his mother moved into the house my father left me and started redecorating without asking. When my MIL posted, "Finally living the life we deserve" on Facebook, I replied with the divorce papers. But let me back up. Dad died when I was 28, leaving me his century-old Victorian in the historic district. The house had been in our family for 4 generations. Every room held memories. The kitchen where my grandmother taught me to bake, the porch where Dad and I spent Sunday mornings drinking coffee. When I married Theo 2 years later, he seemed to understand what the house meant to me. He'd grown up in apartments, moving every few years. "I love that you have roots," he'd say. "Somewhere that's really yours." His mother, Darlene, had other ideas. It started subtly. She'd visit and suggest minor changes. "This wallpaper is so dated. These curtains block too much light." I'd smile politely and change the subject. Then Theo lost his job. His company downsized, and suddenly we were living on my salary alone. Darlene called daily, offering help we didn't need, advice we didn't ask for. "Theo should move back home until he finds work," she'd say. "This is his home," I'd remind her. 6 months into his unemployment, Theo started acting strange, taking calls in another room, disappearing for hours to clear his head. When I suggested marriage counseling, he accused me of not supporting him during a difficult time. I came home early from work one Tuesday and found them. Darlene's car in the driveway, her suitcases in my foyer. Theo was removing my grandmother's china from the cabinet. "What's happening?" I asked. Darlene appeared from the kitchen, measuring tape in hand. "We're just making some improvements. This house has so much potential. Mom's staying with us for a while," Theo added quickly, "just until she finds a new place." Something in his voice told me this wasn't temporary. Over the next week, I watched my house transform. My grandmother's furniture appeared on Craigslist. The wallpaper Dad had helped me choose was stripped away. Darlene hired contractors without asking, charging everything to my credit card. When I objected, Theo said I was being selfish. "She's my mother. She has nowhere else to go. This is my house," I said quietly. "Ours," he corrected. "We're married." But we weren't. Not really. Missouri is not a community property state, and I'd never added his name to the deed. The Facebook post appeared on a Sunday morning. Darlene had taken professional photos throughout my house, now staged with her furniture, her style, her vision. The caption, "Finally living the life we deserve. Blessed, new beginnings, my home." I sat in my car outside the house I'd grown up in, staring at those photos. Then I called my attorney. The divorce papers were filed by Monday afternoon. I printed them and posted a photo as a comment on Darlene's Facebook post. "Here's the life you actually deserve." The sheriff served them Tuesday morning. I waited outside while Theo and Darlene read through the paperwork. The eviction notice was stapled to the back. When they emerged, Darlene's face was purple with rage. "You can't do this," she hissed. "Theo has rights." "Actually," I said calmly, "he doesn't. The house is solely in my name. You have 30 days. But as I drove away, my phone buzzed. A text from my attorney. "We have a problem. Check the county recorder's office. Now." I pulled over and accessed the public records database. My heart stopped. Somehow, impossibly, a quitclaim deed had been filed 3 months ago, transferring my house into Theo and Darlene's names. The signature looked exactly like mine, but I'd never signed anything. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at the document on my phone screen. The signature was perfect. Too perfect. Every loop of my handwriting, every characteristic slant. Someone had studied how I wrote. My hands shook as I called my attorney back. "It's forged," I said immediately. "Can you prove that?" Patricia asked. Her voice was careful, measured. She'd been Dad's attorney before mine, had handled his estate. She knew what this house meant. "I never signed this. I'd never sign this." "That's not the same as proof," she said gently. "Do you have any documents from that time period? Anything dated around when this was supposedly signed?" I pulled up my calendar. 3 months ago, March 15th. I'd been at a nursing conference in Kansas City that entire week. "I wasn't even in town," I said. "I was at a conference. I can prove it." "Good. That's a start. Meet me at my office in an hour and bring everything you have." I drove to my friend Whitney's apartment instead. She'd been my college roommate, the one person who knew everything about my relationship with Theo, the one who'd warned me about Darlene from the beginning. She opened the door in scrubs, just home from her shift at the hospital. "I need to see everything," I said before she could speak. "Every photo I was tagged in during March. Every text message. I need a timeline." Whitney pulled me inside. "What happened?" I told her about the deed while she made coffee. She didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes. When I finished, she was already on her phone. "March 15th, she said. "That was the Saturday of the Kansas City conference. We got dinner at that Italian place. I took photos." She scrolled through her camera roll. "Here, time stamped. You're clearly not in Springfield signing documents." But even as relief flickered, reality set in. Being out of town didn't prove the signature was forged. It just proved I wasn't physically present. Theo could argue I'd signed it before I left, or after I returned. "I need to figure out how they did this," I said. "When they planned it. There has to be evidence." Patricia's office was in an old brick building downtown, 3 blocks from the courthouse. She had the quitclaim deed printed out when I arrived, spread across her massive oak desk. "Walk me through your marriage," she said. "Every financial entanglement, every document you've signed, everything." For 2 hours I talked. She took notes, asked pointed questions, made me remember details I'd buried. "Did Theo ever have access to your personal documents?" she asked. "Of course, we were married. They were in the filing cabinet in the office." "Birth certificate? Social security card?" I nodded slowly, understanding where she was going. "He could have practiced my signature," I said. "He had years to perfect it." "Let's assume for a moment the signature is forged," Patricia said. "That's fraud, criminal fraud. But here's what concerns me. The deed was notarized." She pointed to the stamp at the bottom. "A notary public seal. dated March 15th. Either you were there and you don't remember, she said carefully, or someone notarized a forged document. That's a felony. I need to talk to this notary. I'll file a motion to invalidate the deed, Patricia said. But you need to understand, this could take months, years even, and in the meantime, that deed stands. Legally, right now, Theo and Darlene own your house. The notary's name was Beverly Hutchins. Her office was inside a pack and ship store on the south side of town. I found her behind the counter, sorting packages. I need to ask you about a document you notarized, I said, placing a copy of the quitclaim deed on the counter. She pulled on reading glasses and studied it. March 15th, she said. I remember this one. Woman came in, needed it done quickly, paid cash. My stomach dropped. What did she look like? Beverly squinted, thinking. Older lady, well-dressed, expensive purse. She had the document already filled out, just needed the seal. Did you check her ID? Of course. Beverly looked offended. I'm a certified notary. I always check identification. What name was on the ID? She pointed to my signature on the document. My name. Can you describe her in more detail? I asked, pulling up my phone. I found a photo of Darlene from Facebook. Was this her? Beverly studied the photo for a long moment. Could have been. Maybe. It was 3 months ago. But you're not sure. I see a lot of people, she said defensively. I thanked her and left. In my car, I called Patricia. The notary says someone else signed it. An older woman who presented ID in my name. That's identity theft, Patricia said. We need to file a police report. Today. The Springfield Police Department's fraud division consisted of 2 detectives in a cramped office on the 2nd floor. Detective Raymond Cruz listened to my story with the tired expression of someone who'd heard it all before. How much is the house worth? He asked. Around $400,000, maybe more. He sat up straighter. Property fraud over $100,000 was a felony in Missouri. I'll need copies of everything, he said. The original deed, the forged deed, your proof you were out of town. I'll start with the notary, see if we can get a better description or if she has security footage. What about Theo and Darlene? Can you question them? Eventually. But I need to build a case first. If I go at them too soon and they lawyer up, this gets harder. I wanted immediate justice. I wanted them arrested, handcuffed, perp-walked in front of news cameras. But Detective Cruz was right. We needed evidence they couldn't deny. How long will this take? I asked. Depends. Could be weeks, could be months. I'm supposed to let them live in my house for months while you investigate? You could stay with a friend, he suggested. Or, it's my house. He gave me a look that said he'd heard that before too. That legal ownership was complicated. That possession was 9/10 of the law. I left the police station and drove to the house. My house. My grandmother's house. My father's house. Mine. Darlene's car was in the driveway. Through the front windows, I could see her hanging new curtains in the living room. I walked up the porch steps Dad and I had repainted 2 summers before he died. Unlocked the door with the key since I was 6. Darlene jumped when she saw me. You can't just walk in here, she said. It's my house. Not according to the county recorder. She held up her phone. The same document discovered. You signed it over to us. It's legal. I never signed anything. She smiled. It was the smile of someone who'd already won. Prove it. That's when I saw them. Boxes stacked in the corner of the living room. My boxes. The ones I'd packed with my grandmother's china, my mother's books, Dad's photo albums. What are you doing with my things? We're streamlining, Darlene said. The house was so cluttered. All these old things nobody wants anymore. I moved toward the boxes, but she stepped between us. You should leave, she said, before I call the police and report you for trespassing. Something in me snapped. Call them, I said. Please. I'd love to explain to the officers how you forged my signature and committed identity theft. Her smile faltered, just for a second, but I saw it. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. The notary remembers you. She described you. An older woman with an expensive purse who paid cash. Darlene's face went carefully blank. That could be anyone. She's looking at security footage right now, I lied. It's only a matter of time. I grabbed the nearest box and walked out before she could respond. I didn't have security footage. I didn't even know if the pack and ship store had cameras. But the fear in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. She'd done it. And now she knew I could prove it. Back at Whitney's apartment, I opened the box I'd grabbed. Inside were my grandmother's photo albums, the leather ones she'd maintained obsessively. Every family Christmas, every birthday, every mundane Tuesday afternoon meticulously documented and labeled. I flipped through pages of my childhood, my parents' wedding, my grandmother as a young woman standing in front of the Victorian, pregnant with my father. At the bottom of the box was something I'd forgotten about, a shoebox full of letters. They were addressed to my grandmother, sent from a lawyer's office in 1985. I opened the first one and started reading. My grandmother had fought a property dispute. Her brother had tried to claim the Victorian after their parents died, arguing that as the eldest son, the house should pass to him. My grandmother had hired an attorney, and won. The letters documented everything. Forged documents, false claims, a judge's ruling that the house was rightfully hers. History repeating itself. The same house, the same fight. I photographed every letter and sent them to Patricia with a message. My grandmother dealt with this exact thing. The house stays in the family, no matter what. Her response came immediately. This is good. Shows pattern of family protecting the property. Establishes your emotional attachment as legitimate. Keep digging, keep digging. I could do that. I started with Theo's phone records. We were still married, still on the same family plan. I logged into the account and downloaded 3 months of data. In the weeks leading up to March 15th, there were dozens of calls between Theo and his mother, but there was another number that appeared repeatedly. I ran it through a reverse lookup. The number belonged to a print shop in Branson, 2 hours south, the same print shop that specialized in custom documents and reproduction services. I drove to Branson the next morning. The print shop was tucked between a fudge store and a tourist trap selling hillbilly memorabilia. Inside, a teenage kid worked the counter, looking bored. "I need to ask about a job you did," I said. "About 3 months ago, someone would have come in needing a custom document printed." He shrugged. "We do that all the time. This would have been a legal document. A deed, high-quality paper, specific formatting. You need to talk to the owner," he said. "But he's not here." "When will he be back?" "Tomorrow, maybe." I left my number and drove back to Springfield. I was halfway home when Whitney called. "Someone's at the house," she said. "I drove by to check on it like you asked. There's a moving truck in the driveway." I made an illegal U-turn and drove 90 miles an hour back to town. The moving truck was massive, the kind used for long-distance relocations. 2 men were carrying my grandmother's settee down the front steps. "Stop," I yelled, running toward them. "You can't take that." The movers looked confused. One of them checked his clipboard. "We have authorization from the homeowner," he said. "Everything in the living room and master bedroom goes to storage. I'm the homeowner." He showed me the work order, Darlene's signature, an address for a storage facility in Kansas City. "She doesn't own this house," I said. "She forged documents." The mover looked uncomfortable. "Lady, we don't get involved in domestic disputes. We just move furniture. You need to work this out with whoever hired us." I called Patricia. She called the moving company's headquarters. 20 minutes later, the truck pulled away empty, but the damage was done. Darlene was trying to strip the house before I could stop her. That night, I changed all the locks. I hired a security company to install cameras. I moved into my childhood bedroom and didn't sleep. At 3 in the morning, someone tried the back door. The security alarm shrieked. By the time I got downstairs with a baseball bat, they were gone, but I found something wedged under the door. A notice from an attorney I didn't recognize. "Cease and desist. You are illegally occupying property that belongs to Theodore Chapman and Darlene Chapman. Vacate within 48 hours or face forcible removal." I photographed it and sent it to Patricia. Her response: "They're trying to scare you. Don't leave. I'll handle this." The print shop owner called me back 2 days later. His name was Glenn, and he sounded nervous. "I remember the job," he said. "Woman came in with a template, wanted aged paper, specific fonts, paid extra for rush service." "Did she say what it was for?" "She said it was for a surprise gift. Her son was buying his wife property, wanted the deed to look antique, like a family heirloom." "Did you think that was strange?" "People ask for weird stuff all the time. It's not my job to judge." "I need you to testify," I said. "This woman committed fraud. She used that document to steal my house." Long silence. "I can't get involved in that," he said. "I could lose my business. She forged a legal document. That's a felony. Take it up with the police," he said, and hung up. But I had enough. I sent everything to Detective Cruz. The phone records, the print shop information, the notary's statement, the timeline proving I was out of town. "This is good work," he said when I met him at his office. "Better than what most of my investigators would have done. We can bring them in for questioning." "When?" "Give me a week to coordinate with the prosecutor's office. We want to make sure the charges stick." A week. I could manage a week. Except Theo was apparently done waiting. I came home from work to find the front door open. The new locks had been drilled out. Inside, the house was trashed. Every drawer dumped. Every closet emptied. My grandmother's china lay shattered on the kitchen floor, and on the wall above the fireplace spray-painted in red. "Squatter." I called Detective Cruz. He came himself, brought a crime scene tech. They photographed everything, dusted for prints. "This is escalating," he said. "You should stay somewhere else." "This is my house," I said for the 100th time. "I understand. But these people are getting desperate. Desperate people do dangerous things." That night, I stayed at Whitney's. I couldn't look at the destruction anymore. Couldn't stand in the ruins of my grandmother's legacy. Whitney made tea and sat with me on her couch. "Tell me about your dad," she said. "Tell me about the house." So I did. I told her about learning to ride a bike on that driveway, about hiding in the attic during thunderstorms, about the summer I spent repainting all the trim with Dad, just the 2 of us, talking about everything and nothing. "He left it to you because he knew you'd protect it," Whitney said. "Not just the building, the memories, the history. I'm not doing a very good job. You're still fighting," she said. "That's what matters." The prosecutor's office called the next morning. They wanted to meet. Assistant District Attorney Chen was younger than I expected, sharp-eyed and serious. She had my case file spread across her desk. "Detective Cruz has done excellent work here," she said. "We have enough to charge both Theodore and Darlene Chapman with forgery, fraud, and identity theft. The question is whether we can prove it in court. What do you need?" "The notary is weak. She can't definitively identify Darlene. The print shop owner won't cooperate. We need something more concrete, something that shows intent and planning." "I have phone records," I said. "Dozens of calls between them before the forgery. That shows they talked, not what they talked about." I thought about the moving truck, the destroyed locks, the spray paint. "They're panicking," I said. "People who are panicking make mistakes." Chen studied me. "What are you thinking?" "Give me a few days. I might be able to get you what you need." "I can't officially condone anything illegal," she said carefully. "I understand." I spent the weekend at the house, repairing what I could, installing stronger locks, setting up more cameras, waiting. On Monday, Darlene showed up with a locksmith. I watched from an upstairs window as she tried to get him to drill out my new locks. He refused when I appeared on the porch with my phone, recording everything. "Ma'am, if there's a dispute about ownership, I can't help you," he said to Darlene. "You need to go through the courts." She paid him anyway, and he left. She stood on my lawn, staring up at the house. "This is my home now," she called out. "You can't keep me out forever." "Try me," I said. That night, someone cut the power line to the house. Not enough to be dangerous, just enough to be inconvenient. The security company had backup batteries, but the message was clear. I called my uncle, Dad's brother. He was a retired electrician who'd helped wire the house when I was a kid. You need help? He asked. I need to make this place a fortress, I said. He showed up the next morning with his tools and 2 of his sons. By evening, the house had motion sensors, reinforced door frames, and a backup generator. Your dad would be proud, my uncle said. Fighting for what's yours. Think I'm crazy? I think you're a Chapman. We don't give up. Patricia filed a motion for emergency injunctive relief, asking the court to void the quitclaim deed pending the criminal investigation. The hearing was set for Friday. I showed up in the navy dress I'd worn to Dad's funeral. Patricia was already there, organizing documents. On the other side of the courtroom, Theo and Darlene sat with their attorney, a silver-haired man in an expensive suit who looked bored. Judge Alicia Morrison took the bench. She was in her 60s, known for being fair but tough. I've reviewed the filings, she said. Ms. Patterson, you're asking me to void a legally recorded deed based on allegations of forgery. Yes, Your Honor. My client has substantial evidence that her signature was forged and that the notarization was fraudulent. The judge turned to Theo's attorney. Mr. Reynolds, your response? He stood, confident. Your Honor, this is a desperate attempt by Mrs. Chapman to renege on a voluntary transfer. She's having second thoughts about her generosity and is now making false accusations. The deed was properly signed, witnessed, and recorded. My client was out of state when this deed was allegedly signed, Patricia said. We have receipts, photographs, and witness testimony placing her in Kansas City. The deed is dated March 15th, Reynolds said smoothly. It doesn't specify what time it was signed. Mrs. Chapman could have signed it before she left for her conference, or after she returned. Judge Morrison looked at me. Mrs. Chapman, did you sign this deed? I stood. No, Your Honor. I never signed that document. I would never give away my family's home. Yet you're still married to Mr. Chapman, Reynolds interjected. You lived together in this house. You shared financial accounts. Is it really so unbelievable that you signed a deed benefiting your husband? I never signed it, I repeated. The judge studied the documents for a long moment. Here's what I'm going to do, she said finally. I'm ordering a forensic handwriting analysis. Both parties will submit known samples of Mrs. Chapman's signature. We'll have an expert compare them to the signature on this deed. Until that analysis is complete, the status quo remains. Mr. and Mrs. Chapman and his mother may not alter, sell, or further encumber the property. Mrs. Chapman, you may continue to reside there. We'll reconvene in 30 days. It was something. Not a victory, but not a loss. 30 days to prove the forgery. Outside the courthouse, Theo tried to approach me. I kept walking. We need to talk, he called after me. Talk to my attorney. This is getting out of hand. Mom didn't mean for things to go this far. I stopped and turned to face him. This man I'd married. This man who'd watched his mother destroy my home and said nothing. How long were you planning this? I asked. It's not like that. How long, Theo? He looked away. That was answer enough. Before we got married? I pressed. Before my father died? How long have you been lying to me? She's my mother, he said quietly. She needed help. The house was just sitting there. The house was mine. You have so much, he said. She has nothing. I thought we could share it. I thought you'd understand. You thought I'd be okay with fraud? It wasn't supposed to be fraud. We were going to tell you eventually. Make it official. But then you started acting suspicious, and Mom said, Your mother said what? He went quiet. Theo, what did your mother say? That we couldn't trust you. That you'd take everything in the divorce. That we needed to protect ourselves. By stealing my house. By securing our future, he said. Our family's future. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all. There is no hour anymore, I said. You made sure of that. The handwriting analyst was a woman named Dr. Regina Walsh. She testified in dozens of cases, had credentials longer than my arm. Patricia scheduled me to meet with her 3 days after the hearing. Her office was in Clayton, in one of those renovated industrial buildings full of expensive consultants. Dr. Walsh was precise and methodical, examining my hands before I wrote anything. I need to see how you naturally hold a pen, she explained. Your pressure points, the angle of your writing. Everyone has unique characteristics. For an hour, I wrote my name, full sentences, quick signatures, and careful ones. She photographed everything, made notes in a leather journal. Now, she said, tell me about this deed. I explained the timeline, the notary, my suspicions about Darlene. Do you think Theo practiced your signature? She asked. They were married, I said. He saw me sign things constantly. He had access to documents with my real signature. He could have traced them, practiced them. Forgery takes time, Dr. Walsh said. Even someone familiar with your handwriting needs practice. The pressure points are wrong. The hesitation marks show up under magnification. We'll catch it if it's there. And if you can't tell, then the court will have to decide based on other evidence. Not the reassurance I wanted. I spent the waiting period working double shifts at the hospital where I was a surgical nurse. Anything to avoid the house, avoid thinking about 30 days from now when Judge Morrison would make her ruling. Whitney kept me sane. She'd check on the house daily, text me photos showing everything was still intact. She'd bring me dinner during my breaks, force me to eat when all I wanted was to sleep. You're going to win this, she'd say. You don't know that. I know you. You don't lose fights that matter. 3 weeks in, Detective Cruz called. We found something, he said. Can you come to the station? He was waiting in an interview room with Ada Chen. On the table between them was a laptop. We executed a search warrant on Theo's electronics, Chen said. Found some interesting files. She turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was a folder labeled Project Homestead. Inside were documents, practice signatures, hundreds of them, my name written over and over in Theo's handwriting, gradually getting closer to my natural signature. Scanned copies of my birth certificate and driver's license, screenshots of the quitclaim deed form before it was filled out, and emails. So many emails between Theo and Darlene. Read this one, Cruz said, pointing. From Darlene Chapman to Theodore Chapman. Date, February 3rd. Subject, The plan I've been researching. The house is worth more than she told you. We could sell it, split the proceeds. You'd have enough to start your own business. I could finally retire. She won't even know until it's too late. She's so trusting, so naive. This is what she gets for making us live in her family home like we're guests instead of family. I felt sick. There's more, Chen said. She opened another email. From Theodore Chapman to Darlene Chapman. Date, March 1st. Subject, timeline. I found a notary who doesn't ask too many questions. She works at that pack and ship place. You'll need to go when she's working alone. I'm getting the fake ID made this week. The guy in Branson said it'll pass inspection as long as she doesn't look too closely. Practice the signature a few more times. It needs to be perfect. That's confession, I said. That's intent to commit fraud, Chen corrected. With documentation showing premeditation, Judge Morrison is going to see all of this at the next hearing, and we filed additional criminal charges. Conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and now we're adding attempted grand theft. Will they go to prison? If convicted? Yes. Darlene will definitely see jail time. Theo might get a deal if he cooperates. I thought I'd feel triumphant, vindicated, but mostly I just felt tired. What about the house? I asked. With this evidence, the deed will be voided. You'll get full ownership back. How long? Judge Morrison moved the hearing up. Tomorrow at 10. This time, the courtroom was packed. Word had spread about the case. Local reporters sat in the back row, notebooks ready. Theo and Darlene looked smaller somehow, deflated. Their expensive attorney kept whispering to them urgently. Judge Morrison took the bench. She didn't look happy. I've reviewed the evidence submitted by the prosecution, she said. Mr. Reynolds, have you seen these documents? We have, Your Honor. Your clients are facing serious criminal charges, the judge interrupted. This hearing is about the civil matter of property ownership. Based on the evidence before me, I'm ruling that the quitclaim deed dated March 15th is void ab initio, void from the beginning. It was procured through fraud and forgery. Full ownership of the property reverts to Mrs. Chapman. I felt Whitney grab my hand. Furthermore, Judge Morrison continued, I'm ordering Mr. Theodore Chapman and Mrs. Darlene Chapman to vacate the property within 72 hours. Any belongings they introduce to the property must be removed. Any damage must be documented and will be addressed in the divorce proceedings. Reynolds stood. Your Honor, with respect. I'm not finished, Judge Morrison said coldly. I've been a judge for 23 years. I've seen a lot of schemes, a lot of people trying to game the system, but stealing someone's family home through identity theft and forgery, that's particularly cruel. Mrs. Chapman, she looked at me. I'm sorry you had to go through this. The court finds your claim entirely credible and sympathizes with your situation. She banged her gavel. We're adjourned. The reporters rushed forward as we left the courtroom. Patricia fielded their questions while I just kept walking. Outside, the spring sunshine felt surreal after months of darkness. You won, Whitney said, hugging me. I got my house back, I corrected. I lost my marriage, my trust. 2 years of my life. You lost dead weight, she said. Now you get to rebuild. The 72 hours felt like 72 years. I watched from Whitney's apartment as movers emptied Darlene's furniture from the house. Theo came and went, his car loaded with boxes. He never looked up at the windows. On the third day, I returned. The house was empty except for the furniture that had always been there. My grandmother's things, my father's collections. The walls were bare where Darlene had removed her photos and artwork, but it was mine again. I spent that first night alone in my childhood bedroom, listening to the old house settle around me. The familiar creaks and groans that had terrified me as a child now felt like a lullaby. The criminal trial happened 8 months later. I testified about the forgery, the timeline, the emotional devastation of watching my home be stolen. Dr. Walsh testified about the handwriting analysis, how the signature showed clear signs of being traced and practiced, how the pressure points were wrong. The emails were the clincher. Theo had tried to claim he'd been coerced by his mother, but his own words condemned him. Darlene was convicted on all charges. She got 3 years in prison and restitution payments that would take her the rest of her life to complete. Theo took a plea deal, 18 months and supervised probation. He had to testify against his mother, which I heard broke their relationship completely. I didn't attend his sentencing. I was already gone by then. Moved on didn't feel like the right phrase. I'd never really been present in the marriage. I'd been auditioning for the role of Theo's wife, trying to fit myself into his story. Now I was writing my own. I renovated the house slowly, carefully, restored the wallpaper in the dining room to match the pattern from my grandmother's time, refinished the hardwood floors Dad and I had walked on together, painted my childhood bedroom a color I actually liked instead of the pale pink it had always been. Whitney moved in 6 months after the trial. She was going through her own divorce and needed somewhere safe to land. We turned the house into something new, still full of history, but now making new memories. The divorce was finalized a year after that Facebook post. I kept my father's last name, the name connected to the house, to my real family. Theo became a stranger I used to know. Sometimes late at night, I'd stand on the front porch and think about everything that happened, how close I came to losing this place, how Theo had looked at my family legacy and seen dollar signs. But mostly, I thought about my grandmother fighting her brother for this house, my father working 2 jobs to maintain it, the generations of women who'd stood on this same porch and decided they were worth fighting for. I joined their ranks. I was worthy of being a Chapman. The story should end there. Triumphant, resolved, me standing strong in my reclaimed home. But life is rarely that neat. 2 years after the trial, I got a letter. Not from Theo, from his sister Amanda. We'd been friendly during the marriage, though she'd disappeared when the divorce started. The letter was short. I need to tell you something about what Theo and Mom did. It's worse than you know. Call me. I almost threw it away. I'd built something good in the aftermath. I was seeing someone new, a teacher named James who loved old houses and made me laugh. The idea of reopening old wounds felt masochistic, but I called. Amanda met me at a coffee shop downtown. She'd lost weight, looked older than her 35 years. Thank you for meeting me, she said. I wasn't sure you would. Your letter was cryptic enough to make me curious. She stirred her coffee for a long moment before speaking. Theo and Mom didn't just target you. They've done this before. I set down my cup. What do you mean? Theo's first wife, Renee. She inherited a house from her grandmother, a farmhouse outside Sedalia. They were married for 3 years. He never mentioned a first wife. Of course he didn't. They got divorced about 6 months before he met you. Mom helped him hide all the records during your relationship. Amanda pulled out a folder. Inside were newspaper clippings, court documents, photos. Renee's grandmother left her 50 acres with a main house. Theo convinced her to add his name to the deed after they got married. Then he took out loans against the property without telling her. When she found out, he'd already pocketed $200,000. I felt cold despite the warm coffee shop. She fought him in divorce court. But by then, the house was so underwater with debt that they had to sell it. She got almost nothing, lost her family's farm. And Darlene was part of it? Mom encouraged the whole thing. She was living with them too, just like with you. She'd pushed Theo to take out more loans, to leverage the property. Renee tried to press charges, but the loans were technically legal. He'd forged her signature on the documents. How many times? I asked. How many women? Amanda looked away. There was another one before Renee. I didn't know her well. Theo was younger, early 20s. Her name was Corinne. She had a small house in Colombia from her parents. I don't know all the details, but she disappeared from his life suddenly. I asked Mom about it once, and she told me to mind my business. 3 women, possibly 3 families' legacies stolen. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because Theo got out early. Good behavior. And Mom's filing appeals. Their attorney thinks he can get her conviction overturned on a technicality. If they succeed, she trailed off. They'll do it again, she nodded. I can't prove anything about the other women, but you have documentation. Your case was prosecuted. If Renee and Corinne came forward with their stories, it would show a pattern. It might help keep Mom in prison, and it might help those women get some kind of justice. I spent the next week finding them. Renee was living in an apartment in Jefferson City, working as a bank teller. When I called and explained who I was, she went quiet. I thought I was the only one, she said finally. I thought there was something wrong with me, that I'd been stupid for trusting him. You weren't stupid. They're predators. We met for lunch. She brought her own folder of documents, the forged loan papers, photos of the farmhouse before and after, emails from Theo that now looked like manipulation manuals. The worst part, she said, was knowing that house had been in my family since 1890. My great-great-grandmother homesteaded that land, raised 9 children there, survived the Depression, and I lost it because I fell in love with the wrong person. Finding Corinne was harder. She'd moved out of state, changed her name, but Amanda had kept in touch sporadically over the years and finally got me her contact information. Corinne was in Oregon now, working as a therapist specializing in financial abuse. When I explained why I was calling, she laughed bitterly. Of course Theo's still doing it. Predators don't change. They just find new victims. Her story was similar, but earlier, cruder. Theo had been younger, less sophisticated. He'd convinced her to take out a home equity loan to fund his business idea. The business failed. He left her with $60,000 in debt on a house worth $70,000. I had to sell, she said. My parents had bought that house for me as a college graduation present. They were so disappointed. Not in me, they said, but I knew. I knew they thought I'd been careless. Have you ever thought about pressing charges? I asked. That was 15 years ago. I don't have evidence anymore. I was young and stupid and threw everything away when the divorce was final. I just wanted to forget. What if I told you there are at least 2 other women, that we have evidence, that together we might be able to show a pattern? Long silence. I'd want to know more, she said. We built a case. 3 women, spanning 15 years, all losing family properties to the same man and his mother. Patricia helped me connect with Renee's and Corinne's attorneys. We compiled everything into a comprehensive file. Ada Chen reviewed it with her supervisor. This changes things, she said. Darlene's appeal was scheduled for next month. With this new evidence, we can argue that she's a serial fraudster, that her original sentence was appropriate. What about Theo? I asked. He's already served his sentence. Double jeopardy prevents us from trying him again for the same crime. But this could affect his probation, possibly send him back to finish his original sentence if we can show he violated the terms. The appeal hearing was different from the original trial. More formal, more attorneys. The judge was older, severe, someone who'd seen everything. Darlene sat in her prison jumpsuit, looking smaller than I remembered. She'd aged in prison, her confident polish stripped away. Her attorney argued technicalities, improper evidence handling, prejudicial statements from the original judge. It was all procedure, no substance. Then Chen stood. Your Honor, the state would like to present new evidence. Evidence that shows this wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a decades-long pattern of fraud and manipulation. She introduced Renee and Corinne's testimony. The judge allowed them to speak via video conference. Renee went first. She described the farmhouse, her grandmother, the slow realization that Theo was stealing from her, the shame of losing her family's legacy. Corinne followed. Her voice was steady, professional from years of therapy training, but I heard the pain underneath, the wound that never quite healed. When they finished, the judge looked at Darlene. Do you have anything to say? Darlene stood. For a moment, I thought she might apologize. Might show some recognition of the harm she'd caused. These women are lying, she said. They're bitter about their divorces. They're trying to destroy my family. The judge's expression didn't change. I've reviewed the evidence, the loan documents, the property records, the pattern of behavior. Mrs. Chapman, you've spent 2 decades helping your son steal from vulnerable women. You targeted women who'd inherited property, women who were already dealing with loss. You exploited their grief and manipulated them into trusting your son. I was just helping my child. You were committing crimes, the judge interrupted. Appeal denied. Your original sentence stands. Furthermore, I'm recommending that the parole board consider this new evidence when you're up for early release, which, given the scope of your criminal activity, I hope is never. Outside the courthouse, Renee hugged me. Corinne had flown in for the hearing, and the 3 of us stood together in the afternoon sun. Thank you, Renee said, for finding us, for making me feel like I wasn't alone. We should stay in touch, Corinne suggested. Maybe form some kind of support group for women who've been through financial abuse. We exchanged numbers, made plans to meet again, formed a bond built on shared trauma and survival. That night, I stood on my porch again. My house, my grandmother's house, still standing, still mine. James joined me, handed me a glass of wine. You okay? He asked. I think I am. Big day. Bigger than I expected, I said. I thought this was just about me and Theo, but it was so much larger. You helped those women. They helped me understand it wasn't personal. Theo didn't target me because of some failing of mine. I was just next. James pulled me close. He smelled like sawdust and coffee, familiar and safe. Your grandmother would be proud, he said. I thought about her fighting her brother for this house, standing firm when everyone told her to compromise, winning because she refused to give up. Yeah, I said. I think she would be. The divorce support group became real. We met monthly, eventually expanding to include other women who'd experienced financial abuse. Some had lost properties. Others had been trapped by debt. All of them needed somewhere to tell their stories without judgment. I shared the house for these meetings. We'd sit in my grandmother's living room, drinking tea from her china, talking about healing and justice and reclaiming our lives. One evening, a new woman joined us. She was young, maybe 25, clutching a folder of documents. My boyfriend convinced me to put his name on my condo, she said. The one my parents helped me buy. Now he's threatening to force a sale. I don't know what to do. We helped her, connected her with Patricia, walked her through the process of protecting her assets. She left with hope instead of fear. This is good work, Renee said after the meeting, helping people before they lose everything. Wish someone had helped me, I said. You're helping them now. That's what matters. I thought about Theo sometimes, wondered if he understood what he'd done, if he ever felt remorse. Amanda told me he'd moved to Florida, was working in his father-in-law's business, had gotten remarried to someone without property, without inheritance. Maybe he'd learned. Maybe he'd just gotten more careful. Darlene sent letters from prison occasionally. They always followed the same pattern. Denials, justifications, demands that I recant my testimony. I burned them without reading past the first line. 2 years later, James and I got married. Small ceremony in the backyard of the house. Whitney was my maid of honor. Renee and Corinne came, along with a dozen other women from our support group. We didn't just celebrate a wedding. We celebrated survival, victory, the stubborn refusal to let predators win. My uncle walked me down the aisle, through the house my father had left me, past the walls that held generations of memories. James waited by the garden where my grandmother had grown roses. The vows we wrote weren't traditional. We talked about partnership, not ownership. About building something together instead of one person subsume another. About respecting each other's legacies. After we signed the marriage license, Patricia handed me another document. What's this? I asked. A postnuptial agreement. James insisted on it. I looked at my new husband, confused. The house is yours, he said simply. Your history. Your family's legacy. I'm not here to take that. I'm here to help you protect it. That's when I knew I'd married the right person. We spent our honeymoon renovating the attic, turned it into a library with built-in shelves for all my grandmother's books, added a reading nook where the afternoon sun came through the original stained glass window. We're making new memories, James said, measuring for shelves. While honoring the old ones, I added. It felt right, building on what came before without erasing it. 5 years after the divorce, Theo died. Amanda called to tell me. Car accident, sudden, no one's fault. He was 39. I felt nothing. Not relief, not sadness, not vindication, just nothing. There's something else, Amanda said hesitantly. In his things there was a box, letters he'd written but never sent. One was addressed to you. I don't want it. I understand, but I thought you should know it exists. If you ever change your mind. I thought about it for days. What could Theo possibly have to say after everything? What explanation or apology could matter now? Finally, curiosity won. Amanda brought the letter. I made her stay while I read it, needing a witness. The letter was short. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I took from you. Not just a house, not just property. I took your ability to trust, your sense of safety, the legacy your father left you. Mom spent years teaching me that people with money didn't deserve it unless they were willing to fight for it. That your security was my opportunity. That inheritance was just another form of privilege that should be redistributed. I believed her. I still half believe her. But I also understand now that what we did was evil, calculated and cruel. You were never going to give me that house. Why would you? It wasn't mine, so we took it. And in doing so, we destroyed everything good between us. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see what I did. I see it clearly now, and I'm sorry. I folded the letter and handed it back to Amanda. Burn it, I said. Are you sure? He's dead. His apology doesn't change anything, doesn't undo anything. I don't need to carry his guilt too. She took the letter and left. I never asked what she did with it. That night, I told James about the letter over dinner. How do you feel? He asked. Like closing a chapter I didn't know was still open. Good. He said he was sorry. But sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't give back what was stolen. Sorry is just words. James reached across the table, took my hand. You've built something better, he said. This house is still standing. You're still standing. That's worth more than his apology. He was right. The house stands. The legacy continues. And I'm here, telling this story, so that other women know they can fight back too. Because that's what we do. We survive. We rebuild. We protect what matters. And we never, ever give up what's rightfully ours. 10 years later, I'm still in the house. James and I have 2 daughters, Nora and Beatrice, named after my grandmother and great-grandmother. They play in the same rooms I played in, climb the same trees, learn to bake in the same kitchen. I tell them stories about their great-grandfather, about the house's history, about standing firm when people try to take what's yours. Will it be mine someday? Nora asks. She's 8. Serious, always thinking ahead. If you want it, I say. If you promise to protect it. From what? From anyone who sees it as just a house, just property. This is family, history, love. People who don't understand that will always try to reduce it to something they can own. She thinks about this. Like Dad's mean brother? Not exactly, I say, though she's close. But yes, some people see value and think that means it should belong to them. That's dumb, Beatrice says. She's 5, fierce, never afraid to speak her mind. Yes, I agree. It is dumb, but it's also dangerous. The support group still meets monthly. We've helped over 50 women navigate financial abuse, property theft, and manipulative relationships. Patricia volunteers her time now, offers free consultations to anyone who needs them. Renee got remarried and bought a small farm outside Columbia. Not the same land her family lost, but her own legacy built from scratch. She invited me to visit, showed me the garden she'd planted, the animals she was raising. I thought I'd never feel safe in a house again, she told me. But I built this. It's mine because I made it, not because someone left it to me. That feels good. Corinne expanded her therapy practice, specializing in recovery from financial abuse. She speaks at conferences, writes articles, helps train other therapists. You changed my life, she told me once. Not just by stopping them, but by showing me that my story mattered, that I wasn't alone. We're not alone. That's the lesson I've learned. My story isn't unique. Houses get stolen, legacies get erased. Predators target vulnerable women who've just lost parents, who are grieving and trying to navigate new responsibilities. But we're fighting back, sharing strategies, building networks of support and protection. The house will pass to my daughters someday, and I'll make sure they know its full history. Not just the happy memories, but the fight to keep it. The lessons learned through betrayal and survival, because that's part of the legacy too. Not just the physical structure, but the resilience. The refusal to give up. The stubborn insistence that what's ours stays ours. On quiet evenings, I sit on the porch with James. We watch our daughters play in the yard, the same yard where my father taught me to catch fireflies, where my grandmother hung laundry to dry. You did it, James says sometimes. You saved this place. We all did, I correct. Every woman who refused to disappear quietly. Every person who helped document and fight and believe. The house stands. Scarred but stronger. Tested but still here. Just like me. And that's how it should be. That's how it will always be. Because we're Chapmans. We don't give up. We don't surrender what's ours. We fight. We survive. We win. And we make damn sure the next generation knows how to fight too. This house has seen births and deaths, celebrations and tragedies, ordinary mornings and extraordinary struggles. It will see more. My daughters will add their stories to its walls. Maybe someday their daughters will too. The legacy continues. Not because it was easy, not because we were lucky, but because we chose to fight for it. Every single day. That's the real inheritance. Not just the house, not just the property, but the lesson that some things are worth fighting for. That family and history and belonging matter more than convenience or compromise. Theo and Darlene tried to teach me that security is an illusion. That trust is weakness. That love is just another tool for manipulation. Instead, I learned that security is built through boundaries. That trust is earned and worth protecting. That love, real love, respects what you value and helps you defend it. The house taught me that. My grandmother's fight taught me that. My father's gift taught me that. And now I'm teaching my daughters. The porch steps creak under my feet. The same creak they've had for 100 years. I could fix it, but I don't. It's part of the house's voice. It's a reminder that we're all just temporary caretakers of this place. Our job isn't to make it perfect. Our job is to keep it standing, keep it safe, pass it forward. I've done that. Will continue doing that for as long as I'm here. And after I'm gone, my daughters will do the same, because I've taught them what matters, what's worth protecting, what it means to say, this is mine, and mean it in your bones. The sun sets over the neighborhood. Original Victorian houses line the street, each one a testament to time and survival. Some have been split into apartments. Others have been modernized beyond recognition. But this one, my grandmother's house, my father's house, my house, stands as it always has, true to itself, uncompromised. That's the victory. Not just keeping the property, but keeping the soul of it intact. I go inside, where James is helping the girls with homework. The kitchen smells like the same cookies my grandmother used to make. The evening light filters through windows that have watched generations grow and change. This is home. This is legacy. This is what was worth fighting for. And I'd do it all again without hesitation to protect it. Some things are bigger than us. Some things matter more than our individual comfort or our desire to avoid conflict. This house is one of those things. This legacy is one of those things. And I'm honored to be its guardian, even if that meant becoming a fighter. Especially because it meant becoming a fighter. The story ends where it began, with me, standing in the house my father left me, knowing what it cost to keep it, but also knowing it was worth every single battle, every confrontation, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt and fear and rage. Worth it, all of it, because this house still stands, and so do I.